folks, Free Play Frank. Well, this week I got part 2 of the small jaw crusher build for you. And then later we're going to play another Canadian classic, Keep On Rockin' in the Free World by Neil Young. Alright, let's get busy. Well, I got the first intermediate shaft on that runs, the engine runs this pulley here, and then these pulleys here turn the crusher. And now I'm trying to fit the lower shaft that's going to turn the conveyor belt. So I got the belt coming up through here. And I made some brackets on the shaft. I'm going to plug weld them through these holes to get it to hold up. And while it's in place, and here's the shaft here. There's the brackets I made for it. And then there's a pulley on that end over here. It's going to turn this pulley here to turn the conveyor. Okay, so I got this intermediate shaft on here. Here's the brackets I made. I cut slotted holes in so that I can adjust the belt tension, and I got these things here. Crank this up against the pillow block bearing to adjust the belt tension. And I cut the hole in the platform for the belt to go down through here to drive the pulley beneath, which I have mounted now. I made some brackets there. I got that all mounted, so I got to line this pulley up here. This pulley's still loose on the shaft. The other one's lined up properly. You can see they're both lined up. So now I just got to find the right length belt. The belt that I had for the upper pulley here is a little bit too short, so I'm going to have to find a belt about 2 inches longer and then find 2 belts to fit that size down there. But I got a lot of belts, so I can go through my assortment, find something that'll work. Now here's my setup for welding the tongue on. Now this is the part where the trailer hitch is going to be welded onto here. And I used the old screen. Remember the first video in this series where it had this screen around to protect the operators from rubbing up against the flywheels? Well, I used that and I tilted it, and I used that jack and some blocks to hold at the right angle so that this would fit on there straight. And I used that big square here to make sure that it was the right angle there. You know, sometimes I have help, today I don't, so I have to come up with clever ways of being able to work by myself. Alright, I got the tongue all tacked in place here now. And this is roughly where this jack leg is going to go. I've got it extended all the way down. And this is roughly where the engine mount is going to go. So now I get busy and weld all this up solid. Well, I'm missing the nuts that hold the hubs on the axle here. And I don't have the axles either. So my parts guy had to go to 3 different places to find them, and $52 later. And what I'm going to do for the covers at the end is I got 2 round pieces of steel here. I'm just going to put grease on the flange and mark it with the grease and then drill the holes. And I'll bolt these on. And I see there's a slight flat spot here and there on both of them. That's because of the piece of steel I cut these out of. It wasn't quite big enough to get 2 full round circles, and I don't have another piece this thick right now. So I just MIG weld on here and then grind it so that it's round. It will look alright. Who's this? Oh, hi Ashley. You just hanging out in here with me, keeping out of the rain? Yeah, I don't like the rain either. Well, there you go. They're done. I had to file 2 holes on this side and 1 on the other side. So out of 8 holes, I had to file 3. So I've been doing this for 40 years now and get used to laying out a bolt circle. What I did was I spray painted on the hub and stuck this onto the hub where the paint was wet. You can see the residue there. And then center punch the center of the holes. And once I got them all drilled, I have to drill them in 3 stages. You can't punch a 1/2 inch hole through a piece of 3/8 inch plate with my little drill press. So I start with 3/8 and then I went to 7/16 and 1/2 inch. And there's a couple of YouTube videos where they show how to do a bolt circle without fancy equipment, but I think one's Joe Pye's channel and the other one is Tom's Techniques channel, so if you guys want to watch those. But the way I do it, it would take me longer to set up all that equipment to do it than to file a couple of holes, so I just go this route, and still have to tack on here where it's not quite flat, but this circle's slightly bigger than the hub, so I'm pretty sure I can just grind this all down and hardly, maybe a little tiny bit of weld here and get it round. And now I'm just gonna add lock washers and silicone, and it should be fine, because with these style of axles, the bearings are mounted inside this hub. This is a 3/4 ton or 1 ton truck axle. They call this a full float rear end. So I didn't have the axle shafts with this, it was long gone, so I could have just cut the shaft off and used the end piece to cover the hole. But these axles they can be worth a couple of $100 to the people if you're still running a truck with this rear end, because they break, like, you know, it's not uncommon to break an axle if you're 4-buying and stuff. So I don't want to wreck a good axle if somebody can use it. So, you know, it seems like a lot of work to do it this way, but you know, that's what I have to do in order to get this to work for what I want it to do. So there's what she looks like all done. Oh, I got the tongue all welded up solid. Unfortunately, it rained before I could get it painted, but that's okay. I got a wire brush, I can clean it all up. Now we're fitting the motor mount. I got all the brackets made for that, tacked up into place. Here's the brackets I made to hold the axle. We've got them clamped up in place on the bottom of the subframe here, and then the axle is going to weld onto here, the other one hanging down on the other side. Okay, axle brackets are welded in place. I removed the conveyor belt and welded that all up solid. And then I made this little chute here, so when the rock falls down in there, it doesn't go all down out the bottom. The only problem is it got those little baffles on the rubber belt there, and you can see it passes by it no problem, but then there's a dead spot until the next one comes, so I'm going to lose some gravel out there as the belt's turning. Nothing I can do about that. I've got the axle jacked up into place here now, and I put one wheel on just to make sure I don't have any clearance problems. It looks like it's fine, and the other side should be alright too. So get busy welding that in place now. This piece is for the crank up handle for the landing gear at the front. It's a tapered shaft here at the end. This is off of an old meat grinder. So I'm tapering the end of that shaft so this will fit on there, and then I'll grind a flat spot in it, press it on, and then weld a washer to the end to keep it from sliding off. Well, I got all the belts all adjusted properly, except the motor's not on yet, but I can turn the belts. You can see the conveyor moves now, and you can see the ones underneath here. I got that belt set right, and I got the axle all welded in. I added these extra braces on the front. I had to put that blue piece farther forward to clear the pulleys. You can see how the pulleys run the conveyor belt from below there. That works all right. And we got the wheels on. Oh, she's sitting down on her wheels now. Here's the crank up handle here, works quite well. That's up, that's down. There, I've got the infeed hopper suspended from the engine hoist here at the right height that I want it, and I got it all welded up solid. So we're gonna make a frame to hold this now. I'm gonna make it out of this 3-inch square tubing. And then I have 3 of these mounts here, rubber mounts with bolts on at the top and the bottom. So I'm going to cut this in half and section this in half with a line through here so that it welds onto the bottom of this upside down. to hold this, and I'll make one for the end and a couple brackets that hold it onto this framework here. So I get going on that, and I'll show you what that looks like. There's the two side rails. You build one and you build the other one on top of it. That way you get them both the same. Okay, there's the frame tack welded together upside down. These are the diagonal braces that's going to hold this up from the bottom. Got the angles laid out at each side. Alright, I got her all tacked in place now. So next we're going to get these mounts here. One is going to mount here, one on the other side, and one up at the top end there. So I'm going to make the brackets for that next. There, I'm finding the angle for these mounts here. Figured out the height it's going to mount right in here. The bottom half is going to be welded in here, and top half will be welded on here. So I have to figure out the spacing, how far away the mount has to be so that everything fits together properly. Okay, so here's the upper mount that holds the end of this shaker table here, and this piece of steel here is ground so that it's a sledgehammer fit, and I gotta pound it down into there because this mount here weighs about 20 pounds and I can't hold that up underneath and hold that piece with my other hand and mark it. So I got it in the right place now, so you can see that that fits up real nice against the shaker table there, so I'll be able to weld that no problem. So I'm just going to mark where the hole has to go now, and then we'll get this one tacked. Okay, I got the two lower ones tacked into place now, ready to be finish welded. Well, here's the jaw liners all built up, and we started out by welding all the worn out areas in with 7018, stick welding it, grind that all flat, and then we used 11018 for these ridges, and then cap the ridges off with a hard facing rod, and we used 7018 to build this part up that was worn on the sides of these cheek plates. Fortunately they ended up out in the rain there for a while, but I ain't gonna hurt it any. Jaw liners are installed now. I'll just turn it here and you can see how it moves. Got it set to crush to about 3/4 minus. Okay, I got the in-feed hopper taken off again and standing up on its end. These brackets here are for the vibrator shaft. So this one here goes on this side right here, like this. Remember, this is upside down. We're looking at it as if we were laying underneath the machine looking up. So this is one bracket here. And here's the other bracket here that stands up here. And you notice I had to move this one in 1.25 inches for the belt to clear. So I'm going to have to trim one of the vertical uprights that hold this on to cut about 3/4 inch out of one section of it for the belt to clear. One of the problems when you're building small machines, guys, is trying to get everything to fit. And if you're building a big huge machine, it's easy to find 1 inch or 2 for a belt to slip through, but not so much when you're building a small machine.
There's colors in the street, red, white, and blue. People shuffling their feet, people sleeping in their shoes. There's a warning sign on the road ahead. There's a lot of people saying we'd be better off dead. Don't feel like shooting, but I am today. So I try to forget it any way I can. Keep on rocking in the free world. 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 flight in a garbage can. Now she's put the kid away and she's gonna get a hit. She hates her life and what she's done to it. There's one more kid that'll never go to school, never get to fall in love, never get to be cool. Keep on rocking in the free world. 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 We got 1,000 points of light for the homeless man. We got a kind little gentler machine gun hand. We got department stores and the toilet paper, styrofoam boxes for the ozone layer. Got a man of the people saying keep hope alive. Got fuel to burn, got roads to drive. Keep on rocking in the free world. 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 All right, there you have it. Neil Young, Rockin' in the Free World. Thanks, Neil, for a lifetime of great music. And thanks, guys, for joining me. I had a lot of fun this week. Hope you did too. See y'all next time. Take her easy.